Now, what if climate change is a big old hoax? A lot of you believe that, right? Say you believe climate change is a big old hoax. Isn't it still a good idea to get rid of that desert and turn it into something useful? Here's my idea for getting rid of hurricanes and making the world a better place. This is my whiteboard that you can barely see. But if you could, you can see that this is a very bad map of Africa, with the top part of Africa being the Sahara. So that's all desert up there. Suppose you put together three technologies that we understand. We know how to build nuclear, so you put a nuclear power plant right on the coast, or close enough to the coast that you can get the water from it, and then you put a desalination plant right next to it to take advantage of the energy, because desalination is an energy-intensive thing. That gives you an ability to irrigate, but irrigating a desert isn't enough. You would also need nutrient-dense soil. Turns out we know how to do that too. If you put a bunch of free-roaming livestock on the border between vegetation and desert, those livestock will wander over into the desert part now and then and poop. And their activities of eating plants and pooping seeds, and the poop being the fertilizer, fairly quickly and faster than you would imagine would be the case, meaning over just a few years, they actually move the border of the vegetation into the desert. So you can actually expand vegetation into a desert just by having livestock wandering around on the border. So if you combine those three things, you could target the Sahara, one of the hottest places on Earth, for a specific and targeted cooling. Why does that matter? Oh, I'm not even gonna. How many of you know why that matters? Why would it matter so much to do it there versus somewhere else? Does anybody know the answer to that? The answer is because that's where hurricanes start. Hurricanes are born because of the difference in temperature between, and somebody will have to fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is approximately true, that the ocean is relatively cool, the desert is relatively hot, and there's a certain time of season when that difference is enough to make the wind turn into a storm configuration. If you could cool just a few degrees off of the coastal Sahara part, there are smart people who believe, and again, I'd have to be fact checked on all this. I'm not the climate scientist, but I believe you could actually weaken hurricanes. Now, weakening hurricanes is not an answer to climate change, because hurricanes and storms are just one thing that people are worried about. They're worried about the superstorm, etc. But we could somewhat directly go after it. We could find that hottest spot and just take a couple of degrees off it over time, so that now we're 40 years in the future when there would be super hurricanes, assuming climate change goes the way the scientists say. Now, what if climate change is a big old hoax? A lot of you believe that, right? Say you believe climate change is a big old hoax. Isn't it still a good idea to get rid of that desert and turn it into something useful? Of course it is. It's never going to be a bad idea to have desalination and fresh water and cheap energy and a place you can plant more stuff.